to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. I so appreciate you, the audience. Here's why. I'm going to add something to the stage. We've been honored with some awards in the last year and a half. We are ranked as the number 2 CEO podcast by FeedSpot out of California, and that we're number 2 in the top 30 CEO podcasts. Quite an honor. Also the top Canadian leadership podcast. And I didn't know about Million podcasts, but they're telling us we're in the top 100 storytelling podcasts internationally. And so that's what this show is all about. Let me just take that off the screen there. It's about telling stories. Now you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble right now. And what that means is that you're able to chat with us. So if there's a chat feature, just put a comment, ask a question of the guest. We'll try to honor it and bring it on the screen and see where we go with the dialogue. So as we get started here, this is live. There'll be a release of it in the future as a YouTube premiere video and also a podcast across over 19 countries. And so here we go. Let me tell you a little bit about our guest. I'm going to set this up here, everyone. I call it the hook. So stand by. What would it be like to learn about our guest from the depths of his story? The stream here is live. I see the chat. It's starting to populate. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Now, there's something interesting about today's conversation. And for 30 years, this man that you're going to meet has helped nonprofits raise millions of dollars. Millions. It's a lot of money. Major gifts, mid-level strategy, global consulting, conferences from North America to London. On paper, it's about revenue. But here's what stopped me. He told me there were 4 or 5 moments in his life where he had to listen to his inner voice and take a risk that changed his trajectory in his work. Not a spreadsheet decision, but an inner decision. And I'm curious about that because anyone can teach fundraising mechanics. That's what I believe. But not everyone can explain the moment they chose courage over comfort for their work. Now we're going to talk about money today. Oh yeah. But I suspect this conversation isn't about money at all. It's about relationships. It's about risk. It's about what happens when you trust the quiet voice inside of that safe path. Now, Jeff, he's in the green room. Let's bring him on and welcome him to the Quiet Warrior Show. Hey, Jeff, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you here. What was it like hearing about you as we started off the show today?
I loved it. I love the intro there. I've never had an intro like that. So you win already.
So here's the thing, everybody. We're riffing today telling stories, but Jeff already showed us the mastership of how he builds rapport. He gave me a compliment. He liked what I did. I'm sure we'll learn later about what he really thought. I'm just joking. So hey, Jeff, one of the things that we do here on the show is we take you into Plato's Garden. So let me get us in there. Are you ready to go into Plato's Garden?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm going to add something to the stage here and set this up again. Stand by. What would it be like to go into Plato's Garden and riff and tell stories with Jeff? So to explain to our audience here, Plato's Garden, you can see on the screen there that Plato was an Athenian philosopher, Jeff, and it was during the classical period in ancient Greece. He was a founder of what they called the Platonist school of thought and the academy. It was the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. And as we talk today and tell stories, we're going to go into 3 areas. So, Jeff, we're going to look at the influences of the context of your work. We're going to look at macro, which is the global world. Mezzo, which is the sector where you do your work. And micro, which is part of my favorite, is the personal, who's the man, Jeff. And Jeff, how do you pronounce your last name, just for the audience?
Schreifels.
Jeff Schreifels. That's awesome. And so let me take that off the screen now. And so what we're doing here, everyone, is we're doing what's called critical thinking. So if we let Jeff tell us his deep story in all those three areas, we're hoping you, the audience, can find the nuances, mesh it together, and then at the end say, I really learned who this man is. And through his story, he's giving you an invitation to learn something about yourself. So Jeff, I'm going to throw something out. We'll just get riffing on this.
Okay.
We'll go into the micro here. So you mentioned in the research I did, and you wrote back to me, you mentioned 4 to 5 pivotal moments where you listened to your inner voice.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to take us into one of them. I mean, what did it cost you emotionally to trust that whisper, and what was one of those?
Well, the first one that I can really recall was when I was in college. I was a junior in college, and I was studying for my degree in history and secondary education. So I wanted to be a history teacher. And this was in St. Cloud, Minnesota, town of about 50,000. That's where most of the time I grew up. My dad was in the Navy, so we moved a lot, but ended up there from age 10 to through college. And at this time in my life, I noticed a period of like, I just felt like I was in a rut.
Yeah.
I was going through my courses and everything, and I thought I needed to do something outside of myself. And I heard about a program in Philadelphia that worked with kids in public housing. So I really thought about it, and I decided to take a semester off of college and just drive out to Philadelphia and work with this group in inner city Philadelphia to work with kids in public housing, after school programs, Saturday, kind of hanging out with kids and just being with kids from the inner city. And that experience, which was about 2 months long, changed the trajectory of my life. I went from thinking I was going to be a high school history teacher in semi-rural Minnesota.
It's a bit of a shift.
to living and working in the inner city of Philadelphia. And it really changed the path that I took in life. So that was a major one.
Yeah, that's remarkable. So we hear, we hear a lot of stories from my own daughter, who's 28, just got married, graduated, and did her degree, and is now doing her master's and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
and we hear about like her in this generation taking a year off and traveling the world and going to see other parts. What you just told us is very interesting to me. How did your mother and father influence that? And did you have anything in your childhood or early years that connected to that?
Yeah. Well, my parents were totally supportive of it. And the reason for that is I grew up in a, working class family. My dad was in the Navy, and then after that, he became an electrician. We didn't have a whole lot of money. I always had to work from, age 12 up to have any nice stuff. Like if I wanted a bike, I had to go and work for it and get it. But one thing that my dad instilled in me from the very beginning was that no matter where you were, you always needed to give back. And in fact, my dad every week would sit us around his kitchen table, our kitchen table.
Yeah.
And he'd show us his paycheck. And then from that paycheck, he would the first thing he would do was write out checks to charity. And that, being around that meant something. And even when my dad was unemployed for months, he would write those checks out to charity from his unemployment check.
Wow. And
so that, when you grow up like that, you just know that that's part of your life. You need to give back. And at that point in college, I felt like, everything was centered around me and what I was going to do. And I needed to do something outside of myself. And so that was the decision. I was just going to do it.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I'm going to put some on the stage here. Just this is my camera in the studio. See if you can see that if I just put that on there.
Yeah.
Just the audience. A few things I wrote down. So I'm just going to riff back with you here. It's funny because when you tell your story, you give us the permission to get in your story and learn something about ourselves. You know what's remarkable? We've never met before, right? Just
never met.
So I'm going to tell you something that I honor you, but you stirred up in me. So your dad was in the Navy. My dad was in the British Army, used to fly helicopters and technician, then the Canadian Forces where we are now.
Yeah.
My dad became an electrician.
Really?
Yeah. And my dad pumped gas and then became an electrician. I always used to say to my friends, and I still do, that I've been working since the age of 12. My first paper at 12. My dad left home when I was 12. If you've looked in my background, he was pretty addicted to alcohol and pretty tough guy. So I lost my dad at an early age, but Dad always taught us to give back. And what you said about that was remarkable, how it shaped you. My dad used to do that in different ways. And one of the things I remember he said is when you get your first job, take your first paycheck, take a percentage of it and help somebody do something with it. And I just took my wife and my daughter out to celebrate something important for me. I completed my doctorate degree last month.
That's awesome.
And I said that, I quoted my dad who's dead now, but I said that. And so I'm passing that on to my daughter. The last thing about the paycheck, man, that's crazy. Your dad's unemployed and he's still writing checks. So I can start to see now why everything you're doing is so deep and important to you. So let me throw this out to you.
Yeah.
Again, this comes from my research and learning about you. When you say legacy is not important, but opening the way for others is, what shifted inside you to arrive there? And I'm assuming it's a little bit of what you said, but is there more to that?
Well, I think around legacy, I'm aware of this vast universe that we are in and how small we are compared to this vast universe. And also thinking a lot around ego and all of those psychological things. I've never been someone that's like, oh, I've got to accomplish this, and this, because when I die, I want all these people to think this is what he did. This is what I really feel like we put so much emphasis on that.
Yeah.
And what I'd rather do is focus on giving back and letting other people rise up, because when I'm dead, I'm 61, I got maybe 20, 25 years left.
Well, that's pretty open.
Unless something happens.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to keep healthy. I got about 20 some years left. When I die, after a few years, no one's not going to remember me. And that's okay. But if I can imprint on my kids, on certain people that I've met along the way, that can carry some of the stuff that they learn from me or they glean from me, then that's beautiful.
It's pretty awesome. Think about the legacy, and we're pretty close to the same age. You look pretty fit, so I assume you work out, or at least you eat well. You do something. You're doing something.
I try, yes.
Yeah. No, this thing about legacy is a big word, and I don't think too many people understand it. I'm going to put something on the screen now, and I want you to tell us what we're seeing there. Just we're still in Plato's, everyone, but what are we looking at?
Well, we're looking at the two books. The first book that we wrote in 2014 was It's Not Just About the Money. That is all about how nonprofits can build relationships with donors.
And what about the second
relationships? And then in 2020, we did another book really geared towards managers and executives called It's Not Just About the Donor, meaning that how important leadership is in successful mid and major gift programs.
I'll take that off the screen there. Do me a favor and just hold up one of the books or both. We want to get a shot so we can produce this later. There it is. Beautiful books. And we're going to have some fun with you. I'm just going to full screen you there so we can reproduce this later.
Great.
So just name the titles while you got them up there.
It's Not Just About the Money, and It's Not Just About the Donor.
Great. And So I was so blessed because look what I got in my studio here. And I got a surprise for you coming up about my review of these books, but I really appreciate it. Jeff, he walks the talk, everyone. I asked for the books. I got the books, and you're going to need to get them. I'm encouraging everybody to read them and review them. I want to just throw this out to you because I've done my own analysis, and we'll put that action cam back on the screen there. So I'm just going to say this, and I'll get us back into Plato's with the next question for you. I wrote this down that the book one, I wrote 2 words, systems and leadership, and book 2, heart and philosophy. And so as we get talking more about the books, we can dive into that. But let me throw this out back in Plato's Garden here. Was there was there a fear that almost stopped you from starting Veritus Group? And what is Veritus Group?
Yeah. There was a fear initially. There was a point where I had to decide. At the time, I was working for a fairly large agency, and my business partner, who I started Veritus with, basically we were at my house and we've always talked about working together and working on major gifts at that time. And, I was doing pretty well at this agency, had a great job. And it meant that if I was going to take this leap, I would have no income coming in. We're starting this from nothing. And who knows what the future was going to be. But, long term, if it did work, it would be amazing. But I really wrestled with that initial leap of losing something to gain something bigger.
Yeah.
And that was the leap where I had to make that decision because I was pretty comfortable living in a great house, paying the bills and more. And I had to make that decision. Was I going to take the risk that potentially over the next until I started getting my own clients, I didn't have any revenue coming in. And so I had to take that leap. And I did that. In our living room in my house. And that's how we came up with Veritus at that time, the name and everything else.
Yeah. What year was that roughly?
2009.
And what does Veritus mean? What's the actual origin of the word?
Yeah, it's really about truth, being authentic.
I see. It sounds like a Latin word.
It
right?
is. It's from the Latin. It's Veritas is the right spelling of it.
I see.
And just practically, that was already taken as a company name.
Yeah.
So we use Veritas and truth and community, authenticity, because that's what we wanted to be as people starting this company and how we wanted to work together to be truthful and honest with one another, but also with our clients and what we're asking our clients to do with their donors.
Yeah, there's many nuggets in there, nuances, everyone. What I heard about the, taking a risk, I call it burning your boat, and I've been there myself, going from executive to my own. It's not a straight line up. I have the book again here, and I was just reading on the back. People will see this in the show notes, but 32 years in nonprofit fundraising, including early work as director of development for 2 nonprofits. Mm-hmm. And so stability into the unknown. And then Richard Perry, we just do need to acknowledge, I think he's your co-author, and he is also co-founder of Veritus.
Really, I would say he is the founder of Veritus. He had his own personal practices, his own consulting on his own. And then when we came together, we rebranded his own consulting into Veritus, and then it became the 2 of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. One more thing I want to just acknowledge is you said something that was meaningful to me about when you found this from your dad's influence, especially, and you found this reason to leave school and go explore and giving back. You said something interesting about it's not about the accolades or the accomplishments. It's about making an impact. And I just want to say that to me, that meant, I studied this in my work. It's about persona. I get a lot of guests who show up and it's like, look how great I am. Here's my book. Here's my rap sheet of accomplishments. But with you, it's very different. It's very real and authentic. And I do acknowledge and honor you because you feel real to me. You're talking as somebody who has removed the mask and peeking out and telling us about who they are. And now I'm going like, wow, I can follow this guy and his work because I know why he's doing it. So let's get back into Plato's. We're going to go into mezzo, which is the sector that influenced the context of your work, basically what you're doing.
Yeah.
You've worked with organizations like St. Jude's and United Way. It's in your bio. Where do leaders most misunderstand donor relationships? And then connect it to any of the books if you want.
I think what leaders mostly fail to understand is that this really is all about building relationships and not just about going after money. And I see a lot of executive directors of nonprofits who like a hands-off approach to fundraising. They either think that fundraising is a necessary evil, or they understand that they need to do fundraising, but they don't want to be involved in it. And so that's where you see a lot of, direct response fundraising, like the appeal letters, emails that you get from nonprofits or events. A lot of that is hands-off types of fundraising. The fundraising that we're working on is relationship-based, meaning we're connecting a human being with a donor. And in major gifts, especially, leadership is very important because donors who want to give 6, 7, 8-figure gifts want to connect with the leader. And so a lot of our work is with those leaders to help them develop the skills and the mindset and philosophy and understanding why this is so important for them to be involved in it. And we really try to change the narrative in their head or how they think about fundraising to change it in the sense that your job is to help a donor find joy in their giving. Donors want to give. We know that. Your job as an executive director is to help them find joy in that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Change that narrative in their head.
Yeah.
It clicks for many of them.
Yeah, just going to put a different view on here. You see in the background behind me, I'm pointing at a human brain there.
Yeah.
That's my Mr. Brain, I call him, or if I'm out publicly speaking, I might say Mrs. Brain so I don't get in trouble. But I had a MBTI, brain injury, in 2018 that almost changed my life forever, and still have some things I'm working on. But what I learned was in the study of the field of neuroscience was oxytocin, a chemical the brain, and you're nodding, I think you get this, and that's the joy chemical. Dr. Paul Zak, who's a friend of mine, Claremont University, did the deep research on that. But this thing about joy, when you and I are together and we're talking, we find there's something deep in common with our purpose. My brain apparently floods itself with this oxytocin, and it's like, we have something in common here. I kind of like this guy. I think I'm going to stay a while. So I want to share this quickly with you. I told you offline in writing that I was an interim executive director once with a not-for-profit. I was chair of the board for 10 years. Can I just share this with you publicly?
Sure.
And we had a board retreat once. And this was before I suffered depression and had suicidal ideation, because I went through that when I had my depression. It scared the hell out of me. Thank God I'm past it.
Yeah.
But I'd always known about mental illness. I had a cousin who, when I was younger, who was found hanging in a barn by a rope, and met a lot of people through my career with mental illness, but never experienced it personally. So anyway, I get on this board and I'm volunteering, right? And the executive director left, so they wanted me to step off board and run it. But before that, just before, we had a retreat. And a guy like you, we could have had come in the room. It would be so great to talk to us. And I remember this exercise. I asked every board director, there were 10 of them, to go around the table and tell their stories. And I remember saying this: tell us, one, why are you here on the board? And tell us, two, what's your connection to the cause? And this was a mental health not-for-profit. And one crazy story started coming out, man. And this one guy, and I can say this publicly because he shared it without naming him. We were at a golf course doing this retreat. And he says, he turns and there's all windows. He says, see that green out there? He said, I was standing there at 10 o'clock at night with a shotgun. And he said, he saved me. And he was pointing to our medical director, who actually was a psychiatrist. Next person, I took a bottle of pills and went to sleep, didn't do the job. They had handcuffs on when I woke up. She was one of our directors. So I want you to tell me this. what I found in our board is that when the directors and the staff had lived experience or connection to others who had lived experience, they could feel the passion more of the cause. And all those directors stayed a while. The ones who just came and went, they dabbled in it. They didn't feel what you're trying to teach us. They didn't feel that passion. Tell me what you think about what I said.
Oh, I think you're 100% right. And what I've seen the same thing in boards that are active versus inactive. When you have board members whose passions and interests match the mission of the organization, that's when you see amazing things happen and you see active board members.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the same with donors. That's what every major gift officer's job is. They're
Yeah.
trying to match the passions and interests of a donor, of a board member, to specific projects and programs of that mission and putting that together. That's where the magic of all of that happens. And so when you have a board and they're engaged, they're usually engaged because they have their passions and interests have matched up with your mission.
Yeah, it's very cool. We also ran up and with the board, we didn't realize, but they were uncomfortable. They didn't know how to go out in the community and tell the story of the organization's mission. Many of them didn't click and clue into that. They had a story they could attach to it. They didn't have to reveal all, but they could say, I'm impacted personally by, depression and et cetera. So just on that, I'm going to throw this next thought out to you. What is broken in the modern fundraising culture that relationship-centered strategy repairs?
What's broken is that the fundraising world has become more transactional.
Yeah.
And it's easier to do it that way when you don't have to connect deeply with someone. But relationship-based fundraising is all about building relationships, and that takes a lot of hard work and dedication and being vulnerable and all the uncomfortable things of human interaction. But it is the most rewarding. So I often speak to major gift officers and I say, you have the hardest job in fundraising. You've got to build relationships, not only with donors, but with internally, with program people, with your executive team, with the finance folks. You have to know them all intimately because they help you do your job. That's incredibly difficult. But it is also the most rewarding job. When you can connect a donor who wants to help change the world and you have something that will help them do it and you bring it together, that is probably like the greatest feeling you can have.
Yeah.
And so the reward is huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. Everyone, we're here with Jeff Schreifels, 2 books he's co-authored. They're on the screen there. It's not just about the donor. It's not just about the money. I think, which one came first?
It's not just about the money was first.
Okay. That's a really good one. So I took that off the screen, but on the second book, one of the things I wrote down at the top here was heart and philosophy. So I think we're really onto something here. And the thing about the gift to others, that's so insightful to me because I can't imagine I can't even be in your shoes, how great it feels to be able to teach people to connect and build those relationships and then help someone fulfill their unwritten passion. I'm going to tell you something about that. So I have a daughter, but I lost the son when he was almost term. He passed it. I mean, it's widespread Down syndrome. That was a long time ago. So loss of a child means something to me. And in my work, I search for ways to feel fulfilled. Sometimes I feel lost, sometimes I feel like, is all this stuff I'm doing? And then when I find something to do that makes an impact, I feel really great. And so that would be an example of what you're saying to us.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And if you were working with an organization and let's say you were a major donor and you were working with a major gift officer, their job would be to try to figure out, who is Tom? Why are you passionate about these kids? And help really understand your story as it relates to that and use that story over and over again with you to let you know that, one, you're known, that you're cared for, and that you can make an impact.
Yeah, I think this is really good. And now we have these tools, right? AI, which is a large language model aggregator of info. I think I could pop your name in and say, please research and tell me everything you can find about Jeff. And in seconds, it'll tell me.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what you would do, right? To learn about the donor is do some research, find out more about them. And then
Initially,
yeah,
initially you could use AI. There's all kinds of tools
yeah,
that are public that you can find out information about a donor. But ultimately, it really is about sitting across the table and having a conversation with the donor. That's when you're really going to find out who that person really is.
I see. So face-to-face, one-to-one, intimacy, right? Very interesting. Let me throw this out about Mezzo again. The permission ask, and just put it that way, reframes how we request support.
Yeah.
What does it reveal about dignity on both sides of the conversation?
Well, what it does, it allows the donor to set the pace of the relationship, of the conversation, and it honors them in what do they want to do? It's what the donor wants to do. And your job as the major gift officer or executive director that's in conversation with that donor is really to listen to the donor and know how to help guide the donor in the conversation, but really hear what that donor wants to do. And if the donor feels heard, they're more apt to want to be in that relationship and to make an impact in some way. And so permission-based is really along the whole entire, not just the conversation, but the relationship. It's allowing the donor to lead it.
I see.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, why don't you hold up the second book now and just read out the title? We're going to I'm going to full screen you here and just do that.
This was the second book in 2020 we came out with. It's not just about the donor. This is really a guide for managers and executives on how to lead a major gift and mid-level team and how to be a good leader through all of that. Because one of the things we uncover a lot when we work with organizations is that nonprofit leaders have not been supportive of the relationship-based team, and we want every executive to be extremely passionate about helping their team be successful.
Expand on that when you say, give us an example of how a nonprofit leader may not have been supportive of their team or a team member.
A simple thing would be, we need to have our major gift folks be at every staff meeting that we have, all these different meetings that we have. Okay, so you're taking them away from being with donors and working with donors. Another is, bigger ones are, I just don't know how we're going to hire another person, even though their data supports it, because, it's just costs too much. And I don't know if I can wait 2 years to see the ROI. So there's a lack of vision from leaders around major gifts, because if they start a major gift program, there is going to be some costs that you're incurring that will take some time to recoup, because it takes a while to build relationships. And so it's either I don't want to invest in that, or if I do invest in it, I need to see results within 3 months. And that's just not realistic. And so having the long-term vision is necessary.
That's pretty interesting. I was thinking about when you said that, my mind went on a journey about salespeople, right? And I have a friend who says, we got to have the business development salespeople in the office so many days a week.
Yeah.
And it's like my wife works for one of the large Canadian banks, Royal Bank, in estate planning. And she said they don't want the business development people in the office. They want them out. They can track their results, right? But you made me think about how can an executive or a leader put a value on relationship activities? You can't. I mean, in sales today, there's some products people try to sell that takes 5, 7, 10, 15 touch points. And measuring the ROI on, I'm starting to learn from you this, that on this, this topic of donors, you have to look ahead. Last thing I want to say on that and ask you to comment on what I'm saying is I have a friend who does large insurance, and they do reinsurance. So this is like for uber millionaires, and the average size policy they sell of insurance is like 50 million. Okay. So it's that type of product.
Yeah.
And, he was saying that to me, that in some cases it takes a year of relationship building to even get to that point. Right. And it starts, so you have to be prepared to do the work and invest in the business. So would that be fair? Would that be fair to say? So what would you say to me if I was a leader of a company and I was arguing with you and saying, you know what, I don't agree with you on that. I mean, I want our people to be here in the office. I don't want to add another resource, et cetera. We can't afford that. Look, we're not for profit.
I would say if you gave me $1 and 3 years from now I gave you 10 back, would you make that investment?
I would.
Because that's what's going to happen. And I will show them how that's going to happen. So one of the things that we do at Veritus is we look at their donor database. And we do an assessment of their data. And there's two things that we show. One is the money that they're losing to value attrition, meaning donors that give 4 years ago. What are those same donors doing today? And what you'll find is we've lost 60% of their value from 4 years ago. Wow. And they don't know it because all they're doing is looking at bottom line revenue. And they're seeing growth. But they're not looking at what did those donors, the same donors that gave 4 years ago, give today. When they see that number and they're losing millions of dollars, that's scary. And then the other thing is, okay, with your own donors right now, if you didn't do anything differently, and if we put in a really robust, structured mid and major gift program, here's where you could be in 5 years, and here's what the ROI would be. So you give them a vision that's pretty compelling. And so they're losing money. We're going to shore that up. And then here's where we could be in 5 years if you really invested in it.
Yeah, that's very insightful. I was thinking again, as you're talking about I guess the analogy I use is if you are running a company, you have an employee, and we know this thing about employee engagement, right? And how sometimes it's about bad management or not good relationships, and employees leave, and they measure things like the cost of turnover and the cost of hiring. Like executive recruitment is 30% of first year salary, et cetera. And then so I'm almost thinking about if this relationship with this particular donor, if we leave it, if we don't nurture it and build it and we lose it, what's the cost of having that come back? I just throw this out from the book too. Everybody, we're here with Jeff Schreifels. It's not just about the donor. I just wrote this down on my paper here, just put this back on screen. Maybe you can help me understand what it meant. The 7 pillars, system thinking. What's that?
The 7 pillars is really the framework of what we call the Veritus Way. The Veritus Way is the system and structure you need to be successful in building relationships with donors. So there's 7 basic pillars to that. Working with qualified donors. A lot of nonprofits and their major gift officers are working with 200, 300, 400 donors that they may have given a gift that would qualify them as a major donor, but they've never had a real discussion if they want a relationship with you. So we want to make sure that every major gift officer that in their portfolio of no more than 150 donors has been in contact with that donor, and the donor says, I want the relationship with you in some way, because that's a game changer for a major gift officer. So that's number one, qualified donors in a portfolio. Then you want to tier those donors, A, B, and C. And that's to help the major gift officer focus their time correctly. So sometimes we have major gift officers who are going out every week with a donor who may be giving $500 a year while they're ignoring the donors that are giving $250,000 a year, because they're harder to get a meeting with, but they're having that breakfast every week with donors giving 500. Well, that's just not a good steward of the organization's time. So we tier them. Then we have a revenue goal attached to every donor, and then a strategic plan to every donor. And that's the structure from which they're working in.
Yeah, my mind's just drawing pictures of going back to my experience in sales from my executive career about, they say measure the opportunity size, and we had account plans and each of them had goals and you attacked it strategically. This is really great because I've never heard this about this area, which is about fundraising. Mm-hmm. Going into the book again, I just want to look something up here for a minute about the data.
Yeah.
It's so you're using the data. So do most companies have the systems in place or are set up if you're to have access to that data? And if not, what do you usually tell them?
Well, yes, most every organization has the data that we need to assess.
Okay.
And so that's not really an issue. Sometimes they're too small for us to be able to work in a consulting basis, and then we'll steer them towards our online training programs. So in 2016, we developed an online platform to create courses for smaller organizations that couldn't afford consulting, because we wanted to reach as many nonprofits around the world as possible with our philosophy, with our structure, because we believe it's the most honoring thing to do for donors and relationships with those donors. And so we believe in it so strongly, we wanted to make it affordable to anyone. And so we created the courses. And so some of those nonprofits aren't big enough to be able to do the consulting. We steer them towards taking our courses.
I see. Yeah, that's the not-for-profit world too. I'm very familiar with. I'm in Canada, but I've worked on both sides of the border. About also, you ask some of the people or leaders there about working there, and there's a disparity in pay. Not-for-profit, low, right? So some executives won't go work in them because they pay lower. But I just want to throw this out for my audience and soon to be or now your audience. There's a really good TED Talk out there. I'll have to dig it up. I don't know if you ever saw it. About a guy, it made millions of views, right? About looking at just that issue about what you pay, and so I think that adds to the same thing about being.
I agree with you. Yes,
visionary. Yeah.
The nonprofit world has unfortunately been caught up in this idea that we should have low overhead.
Yeah.
Because donors won't fund your organization if you're spending more money on overhead. Well, what that results in is you don't pay people well, and therefore you don't get the best people working with you. Yeah. And then you don't get the best leaders because, we're not going to pay them to do the work. Well, the real thing about a nonprofit is how effective are you? Not about what your overhead. If you said to a donor, hey, our overhead is 40%, I'm just going to say 40%. Yet we do X, Y, and Z, and we do it and we can pay our people well, and they stay with us because we're treating them well. We see them as part of our mission, and our donors are staying with us. As a donor, I'd want to be a part of that because they're effective. They're creating outcomes and doing great things, not because, our overhead's only 10%.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, we're paying people really poorly. The turnover is every 15 months, someone's leaving. And that's costly. We can't afford to pay our major gift officers well. We can't afford to pay our executive, And so what happens is there's high burnout, turnover, and people are not happy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm going to riff on this more because I find it a fascinating part of the discussion. You're running a not-for-profit. You're the leader. You've got a board, say, and you've got a budget. And I'm just going to say, maybe it's $1 million. It's not a large not-for-profit. Yeah. And a percentage of your cost to run your organization may be salaries and wages and all that. Maybe it's 50% of that.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting because there's probably two, in my mind, two parallel tracks. One is developing relationships, finding donors to bring in money to help the cause.
Yes.
Number two is finding funding to actually run your organization. And so this is interesting to me because I just thought about this. Maybe I'm wrong, but if I know a lot of millionaires or people who are donors, and I said this to my daughter, never judge a person by their cover. It's who Jeff knows. It's like I might have a conversation one day with you if you're a donor and say, hey, Jeff, I need to go out and raise more funds for running my organization. We need to hire another person. Who do you know, or give me some thoughts on what I'm trying to do. Like if you got that deep relationship and donors are tied and they want to help you, if I'm one of your donors, I'm going to go, you know what? I know John, or I know the government here has a program. And is there anything to what I said, or am I just?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. 100%.
So look at it as a total picture. All right, let's go to the next question here. Are you having fun?
I'm having fun. Yeah, this is great.
Okay, good. So we got a couple of surprises still coming for you.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go into macro now, and the macro is the influences globally, right? So a way I can explain this to the audience, I think you get this, very smart guy. You grow up and your parents came through to the Depression. And so they weren't used to having money and they were used to hardship. So it formed their beliefs and they pass it on. So the context, the influences on you coming from parents who thought that way might be you go out into the world and you're frugal or you think about things differently. So it's something, the influences and context in the macro world are globally influences with, so if nonprofits continue to treat donors transactionally, what happens to the sector in 10 years?
Yeah, those donors will go somewhere where they feel known, cared for, and that they're making a difference at that organization. We see this over and over.
Yeah.
High value attrition rates. We're not treating donors well, and so they go away. We know that this is the number one reason why donors leave an organization is because they don't know why their gifts are making a difference. They never heard back from the organization. I have story after story after story.
That's astounding to me. That's crazy.
Donors who've given sizable gifts and really have never heard back from the organization about what an impact it made. So if you've done that, you'll lose the donor.
Let me just put that back up there. So would that be something that about book one, because book one in my mind was talking about things like systems and whatnot. So what you just said there, it sounds like it's a broken process. If you don't have a process where you got a donor and once you collect the money, somebody's got to nurture that relationship and appreciate them, share with them, here's what your money's done this year, keep in touch. It's a system or a process, right?
It is. So here's how it goes. So pretend I'm a donor. The donor is saying, hey, you made me aware of a problem and you said if I gave, it would make a difference. So I gave what I could. Then the organization this is where the organization goes wrong. They get the gift, they bank it. They may send a receipt letter to say thank you, but then that's it. They never respond back. And when that happens, the donor goes somewhere else. But if the organization closes the loop and does tell the donor how that gift made a difference, the donor will want to give again and do it in a deeper way. And over time, give more of themselves to your organization. But it's just amazing to me how nonprofits, it makes sense, right, to do this. It's like common sense. But most nonprofits do not do this well. They don't have the infrastructure set up. They don't invest in it. They don't do it well. And therefore, donors leave.
Wow. It's astounding, but I hate to nod my head and say you're right, but I experienced that, again, for 10 years working with a local nonprofit. Vancouver is an interesting city because what we learned from that work that I did is there's a lot of millionaires, but they, in Canada in particular, even Ontario, that don't want to be known. They hide under the radar. But there's a way to find them and get to them. Some of them want to remain anonymous. So do you have a thought on that. How do you find a donor who likes to be under the radar? And then once you've got them donate, how do you appreciate them? I guess you have to maybe find something that they want, how to appreciate them.
Well, that all goes back to what kind of relationship do you have with the donor. So how do you find them? They're in your donor database. I will guarantee you that every nonprofit has major donors in their database. Your job is to find who they are and start nurturing those relationships. And once you've done that, then how does a donor like to be thanked? How do they want to know that they've made an impact? And you will know that because you've had those conversations with the donor. It's not a guess. And over time, that relationship should grow deeper and deeper, because there might be some donors, I don't want any recognition. You always honor the donor's wishes, but you won't know that unless you get to know them.
Yeah, it makes so much sense to me. And also thinking about organizations, and there may be multiple touch points where people at different levels, the executive director, the front line, everybody's connecting to some of these people and sharing that knowledge, right? Makes a lot of sense.
That's right.
Let me throw this out at you again. We're in Plato's Garden here, everybody, with Jeff Schreifels. What would it look like if every nonprofit leader prioritized relationship over revenue for the next decade?
They would be wildly successful. They would have more revenue than they knew they could achieve. That's the beautiful thing. If they really focused on building those relationships instead of chasing the money and getting anxious about that money, but really, really diving in and understanding who their donors were and treating them well and investing in the infrastructure needed to honor those donors, which also means honoring your staff and paying them well, and also understanding the community in which you're working in and making sure that community has a stake in your nonprofit, you will be wildly successful. I've seen it.
I like that. I coined that phrase. Everybody come back and listen to this segment, because you have to re-listen to that. Wildly successful. It sounds simple, but it's not oversimplified. Just do the work. These are very good tools. Connect with obviously Jeff here. This is something I want to share with you. It came up from what you just said. And see, everybody, you're getting to see here what happens in Plato's. Jeff says something, my brain goes inside and thinks of something. I put it out there. And Jeff, I'm not sometimes clear when I say this, but it's what happens in the quiet moments between us, in the space between us, where new knowledge is created. And so one of the things you said about getting to know, I sat in a boardroom a couple of weeks ago, and there was a 28-year-old woman who is somebody responsible for connecting with clients, developing relationships. And she looks at me and she goes, because I was talking about my daughter, right, who's 28, and she said, I'm 28. And then she looked at me very openly and innocently. She said, I want to learn from you. How do you talk to older people? And I went, wow. And so I think that when you talk about investing in people, tell me what you think, but there's got to be skills investment, because the next generation learning how to engage with people and talk to them, it starts there, building trust. Tell me what you think.
Absolutely. This is one of the trainings that we do actually within our courses and when we're training as consultants.
Yeah.
How do you talk? How does a 35-year-old talk to a 75-year-old?
Yeah.
And trying to understand the mind of the 75-year-old versus the 35-year-old, because it is different, and you need to make those connections. But that's where being authentic and real and vulnerable helps you connect with those folks who are older, because just like we're connecting because we're both vulnerable with each other and we'll talk about anything. It makes us connect at a deeper level. Same thing with different generations being able to do that together.
Yeah, thanks. You nailed it for me. Back to my view of Mr. Brain back there. If we can just teach people that what I'm hearing Jeff say is it's in this business, it's about building deep relationships. Well, if we don't start out by building this trust rapport in the first few minutes together, if I don't listen well and hear and find a way to get you to tell me what you want to tell me, forget about deepening the relationship. I'm already running away in my mind. And so be interesting at the end. You can tell us where to get a hold of your courses and things, because in the 10 years I was in not-for-profit, we never had books like this, but I never knew that kind of stuff existed. And we're just one country in the world. So let me shift gears here for a minute. Before we move to the last segment of the show, I have a segment we've been trying out called the unwritten book. So let's just have some fun with this one. So I have an off the wall question here.
Okay.
So just hang on a second. What would it be like to ask Jeff the unwritten book question? So Jeff, you've co-authored two books. If you were to write one more book, not about fundraising systems, but about the inner voice that guided you through those life inflection points, what might it be called, or what would it teach us about courage?
I think it would be something around being able to let go of one mindset and to have space for something new in your life. And so all those inflection points that I've had that I've made a big decision on, I had to let go of something. And it was scary, but I made that leap and rewired my brain, in a sense, for a new reality.
So well, first of all, I'm going to give you some fake applause there, everybody. You heard it here first on the Quiet Warrior Show. I wrote some notes on my paper when you said that. I love this because I'm going to challenge you to write your next book sometime. But I picked up on a word you said about let go of one thing. And for some reason, I just riffed and wrote down, donate your fears. So donate your fears, and then change your mindset. There's so much in there, but the part I wanted to tell the audience openly, when I first was introduced to Jeff, remember I challenged you back and I said, look, I know about the business, but the persona of the guy, but what's the deeper parts of you? And that's when the 4 or 5 things you told me came up. And I think that would be a powerful book. So that'd be awesome. Hope you do that. I'm going to hold you accountable for that.
Okay.
To come back and tell us about it when you do.
I like it.
All right. We're going to reveal now reviews for your book. So I want you to hold up both books again, Jeff, and just for the camera, and tell us the titles of them.
All right. It's not just about the money, and it's not just about the donor.
All right. There they are in stereo. Yep. Okay. All right. So in this segment here, I just want you to sit back. We're recording this so I can repurpose it when I create the show for you. And we're hoping you and your team, whatever you want, can use these as clips to promote your book.
Yeah.
So let me just put some on the screen here. And this is where you get to sit back and just enjoy. It's going to take a couple minutes to do this, Jeff.
Okay.
But we need it for the purpose. So let me just put this on this. So can you see that there?
Yep.
Okay. I'm just going to see if I can, so just let me check something here. I told you about my concussion, so I have post-concussion vision limitations. So sometimes it's a little challenging. So I'm just sharing my fear with you now, and I'm going to let it go. I'm going to donate it to God. So God look after me. All right, so let's just set this up here. Well, we're revealing today 2 Amazon 5-star reviews for each of Jeff's wonderful books. So Jeff, I'm just going to share this with you. These were posted. They're live now on Amazon.ca. These are considered international reviews. I'm going to read it out loud here. If you can just sit back and relax. So this is about book 1. It's not just about the money. This book rewires how you see money, donors, and leadership permanently. That's how I titled it. It's 5-star. I've read it from cover to cover. This is one of those rare books that doesn't just teach fundraising. It reframes how you see the people. As a podcast host, author, and someone who has spent years in conversations around leadership and purpose, what struck me immediately is this book is not about money. It's about human meaning. And Schreifels and Perry bring a level of clarity that cuts through the decades of bad habits in the nonprofit sector. The writing is direct, practical, and refreshingly grounded in real-world application. It's not fluff, no theory for theory's sake. But what I appreciated the most in it was a few things. One, the 7-pillar structure gives you a disciplined, repeatable system. The concept of permission-based asking restores dignity to fundraising. And donors are not targets, they're partners in purpose. But the deeper layer for me, it reveals that giving is not transactional, it's transformational for both sides. And these are moments in this book where you realize we've been thinking about fundraising completely wrong. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And this is a book I would not just recommend. It's one I would hand directly to leaders and who are serious about impact. Congratulations, Jeff. Okay.
That's beautiful.
And it's not very often I have to do two, so you put me really to work. So I'm donating my time here to you for this.
Yes.
All right, so here we go in book 2. Jeff, why don't you just hold up book 2 and read the title out again?
All right. It's not just about the donor.
All right, so here we go. I'm revealing here an international review for the second book. It's not just about the donor. And this is posted in live now, posted on Amazon. The title is A Leadership Wake-Up Call Every Nonprofit Needs, Brutally Honest and Necessary. And I titled it to be punchy because reviews, everyone, you got to get books, but you got to read it because the author's work's not known. Why we post reviews online, and I know this as an author, is when people are scrolling and looking at things, it stands out. They want to read it. And the sales reps for the bookstores, they see some buzz around Jeff's book and they say, hey, we got to take a look at promoting this. So here we go. If the first book changes how you see donors, this one challenges how you lead, and it doesn't pull punches. What Schreifels and Perry do here is expose the real issue most organizations don't want to face. Fundraising problems are really donor problems. They're leadership and system problems. As someone who works in leadership conversations every week, I found the book exceptionally sharp. It goes beyond tactics and gets into the uncomfortable truth, culture, and structure. And accountability are what ultimately determine success. And some of the elements that stood out for me, a clear breakdown of why most major gift programs fail, practical frameworks for building structure, accountability, and alignment in companies, and a powerful emphasis on creating a true culture of philanthropy. And what really stayed with me in this idea that fundraising is not a department, it's an organizational mindset. And the writing is clean, direct, and built for action. You can feel that this comes from decades of lived experiences, not theory. And there's a subtle but important layer throughout the book, a respect for the donor that is deeply human, not mechanical. And this is not a guide, it's a leadership mirror. If you're willing to look into it honestly, this book will change how your organization operates. Congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right.
Fantastic.
So I'm going to send you those. And then again, when we do the reveals of the show, you can obviously get the embed codes and use that as you want. I hope it brings you more success. And I'm going to shout out to your co-author too, because obviously that's for both of you. Okay. So we're going to go last segment here and then give you the last word. And that is, we always do this. It's been we're having fun called the Quiet Warriors Torch. All right.
Okay.
So what that is we asked the last guest who I interviewed last week to leave a question for the next guest. They don't know who you are, but they left me a question. And I asked her, it's a young lady, very, very young lady. I asked her to send a question and to watch the show back and see you answer it. So here we go. You ready for it?
Okay.
And she wants to know, Jeff, what's a belief you once had about life that you no longer agree with? And what changed your perspective?
Oh, well, I would say I grew up in a very religious household, more evangelical of a household. And I would say as I grew up and out of the house through college and my own lived experiences, I became a much more open and accepting and non-judgmental person than
Oh,
how I first grew up.
Well, there it is. And I want to thank Annie. That's the lady who left that question.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful answer. Man, I don't know. You see, every time that question comes up, there's like more stuff I want to talk to you about. So it triggered me in many ways. I was baptized Catholic. My dad was a Hindu, and then he left home when I was young, and my mom baptized us. So there's this. And then I actually denied my faith for a long, long time because the Old Testament is so in your face and difficult. And then when I had my brain injury, I went back and started wearing a cross and reading the Bible and learning about the power of that. And it's a very different perspective of what faith to me teaches me, not religion. It teaches me how to treat people well and how to trust in other people. So thanks for that, Jeff. So Jeff, we're going to go to wrap up now and just ask you to tell us, where can people get a hold of you? Feel free to plug your website and your books, anything you want.
Yeah, they can go to veritusgroup.com.
Yeah.
And there's a resource tab on veritusgroup.com. There's a number of free resources. We've built our business on giving away as much information about this work that we could.
Yeah.
And so we have 25 free white papers. We have podcasts. We have, thousands of blog posts over the years that are there, all to help you answer a question or whatever. And so please use the resources. They're free to you. I've had a lot of people over the years say, hey, I've never spent any money at Veritus, but I built my home development team around the Veritus work because I used all of your free materials. And I love that. So please feel free to do that.
I think that's it there, right on the screen.
Yeah.
I'm having fun. I'm having fun with you here, but if I go to the resource tab, that's what you're talking about.
There
right?
it is. All those white papers, books, free assessment, donor assessment.
I bet you somewhere on here is a little bit about you too.
Yep.
Or so your mission.
Our people. If you keep going down, you'll see our people.
Yeah.
They believe. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. Well, we're giving the team a big high five. There's Jeff right there. Oh, there's Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like Richard's haircut better.
You can relate.
I can relate. He's the man. Let me just pull that off the screen there. Hang on a second. I'm going to stop sharing here. Whoops. Just a sec, Jeff. Stop sharing. There it is. Okay. See that? You never know what you're going to get on the Quiet Warrior Show. How's that for weaving a story? So on that note, everyone, let me ask you all to find your true passion and purpose in life. A lot of what you've heard from Jeff here, but live that life yet you deserve and desire. And we'll see you all next week on the Quiet Warrior Show. Subscribe and tell everybody about it. Jeff, it's been a treasure. You know what? That's exactly why I have notes, because the brain doesn't work as fast anymore. I forgot to give you your award. Can you believe it? I'll just let you go. So do you have 2 more minutes for me? Because this is all right. I told you an hour would fly by. Did it feel like an hour?
It did. No, it didn't.
Okay.
It did fly by. Yes.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? Okay. We're going to add this to the stage here. So Jeff, did you know you're getting an award today?
I didn't. No.
Okay. Well, next time I ask you, you'll say, yeah, Tom told me that. And so have you heard of challenge coins?
No.
Okay, good. I'm excited because some people have, some people haven't. So I have the action cam on in the studio here. I'm going to read this. It comes with the award. So Jeff, challenge coins surfaced during the World War I era. The practice of carrying a coin designed specifically for a unit was popular with the Army Special Forces. Carrying the coin at all times and presenting it when challenged to prove affiliation with that unit resulted in a number of consequences for those who could not produce the coin. The most popular required the coinless soldier to buy a round of drinks. That practice continues to be popular today. So these coins have taken a life all over since the World Wars. There's coins all over the world. My dad was in AA for 22 years before he passed, and they had their own version. First responders, you name it. When I started the show, I didn't know how this was going to go. We're well over 350 live interviews. And I wanted a coin to represent the 1% of people in the world who found something in their deep purpose, were willing to take off their mask and reveal and make an impact in the world. So you, my friend, are that. So it is a hand-painted and crafted coin made in the U.S. They're hefty. That's the show image. The back is Joseph Campbell's hero's journey of the journey we take to find the threads in our stories, come back and teach with it, and do something in the world.
That's awesome.
So congratulations and welcome to the Quiet Warrior Tribe.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, let me just move that back off the screen. All right. So we're going to wrap up now. And again, thanks for being here, Jeff. And we're connected for life. We'll get this award to you offline. And come back again, will you?
I will, definitely.
All right. We'll see you next week. See you next week, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca.
Okay, just stand by. We're going to take it offline. We still got live going on. Just stand by.